try it now.
I was reading reviews on these things the other day. They have great reviews.
Yeah, version of it just came out that lets you insert a page in the middle of an existing PDF. Get in there. Leslie's waiting for colored ink or something.
I can get that, especially like if you want to highlight or red. I can see that.
You can highlight in light gray. It stands out in contrast to the dark gray.
Any color in my life.
Battery lasts like a week though.
Because it's no color.
Salty.
Just dull.
I'm not salty.
What, you're not salty? You're not salty?
I'm not having dinner.
Oh, she's hangry.
All right,
It's a quick meeting.
let's,
Hangry Harris.
Just so we're all clear. Michael, those are we talking about cookies?
Cookies, yeah.
So you want to call them?
yeah.
That's my addiction.
He's all right with it. He's comfortable with it.
Okay.
They would have called. 3, 2. I'll now call to order this meeting of the City of White House Council for today, February the 22nd of 2022. Time is now 6 p.m. Ms. Hargis, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. James Wansley,
Here.
Zach Briscoe,
Here.
Georgia Harris,
Here.
Michael Lowe,
Here.
Keith Rosenstein, and John Chambers.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, thank you. So moving on to item B, prayer. Pastor Lester Foreman with Gateway Baptist Church is here with us today. Pastor Foreman, will you please come forward and lead us in a word of prayer?
Let us pray. Our Father, we thank you for this great country in which we live and the freedom that we enjoy. We ask, Father, your continued blessings upon the city of White House. We ask that your business be blessed, that this city council be blessed, and this meeting tonight. We ask for your continued direction and your watch care, lead, guide, and direct us, protect us, and all those who serve in this good community. For it's in the name of Jesus Christ our Lord we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Foreman.
Yes, sir.
Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Texas flag? Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. That sounds great. Right. It's a good way to start. That takes us to item D, presentations, of which we have none. So we'll go right into item E, which is community interest, of which we have quite a few.
Mayor and Council, this coming Saturday is the White House ISD Education Foundation Celebration of Innovation. That'll be Saturday night at the high school. Always a fun time. The city hosted the Chamber Networking Breakfast at 109 East Main this past week. We had a great turnout despite the very icky weather, so it was great to see everyone there. And then just a couple of reminders, on March 26th, Keep White House Beautiful is hosting the Don't Mess with Texas Trash Off. It's opening day for baseball and softball, which we are now up to over 550 kids registered for the season. And then the Farmers Market opening day will be March 26th as well. So that will be a busy day around town, and hope to see you all out and about that day. And then early voting continues through the 25th down at the Methodist Church, and Election Day will also be at the Methodist Church on March 1st. Voting hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
All right, thank you. Anything else to add in the matter of community interest from council? All right, that takes us to item F, public forum. I didn't see anybody sign up for public forum.
No, sir. No one provided a copy to me.
That's true. All right, so that takes us down to the consent agenda that you have before you. Just one item, the minutes from the previous meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion to approve it.
Have a motion
I'll second.
and a second. I heard Councilman Lowe first. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, on to item H, other action items, ordinances, resolutions, and public hearings. Number 1 is the facilities planning presentation and discussion by Randall Scott Architects. Mrs. Black, take it away, please.
Mayor and Council, Randall Scott from Randall Scott Architects is here tonight, and he has a brief presentation. As you all know, back in 2018, the City Council, along with some stakeholders, developed the city's strategic plan. And as a part of that strategic plan is the vision that impacts mainly the 100 to 300 block of East Main. When we had an opportunity to purchase 109 East Main for a very good purchase price, we moved forward pretty quickly. But as a part of that discussion, we decided that we needed to do a facilities plan to take a look at all the city's facilities, their current status, and needs going forward. And so we've been doing a lot of work kind of behind the scenes with Randall Scott Architects to get that underway. But most importantly tonight, I think he has a preliminary floor plan of what could go in at 109 East Main. At the Chamber Networking Breakfast last week and our interagency council meeting last week, we sought some input from our stakeholder groups. We've kind of got some of the posters still around the room. And I kind of asked them for their input on what spaces they would like to see in that facility, and some of those are reflected in this first pass of the floor plan. Again, this is just a very first draft of what could go in at 109 East Main to kind of get us started on having the discussion of where you all would like to go from here. So with that, I will turn it over to Mr. Scott.
Thank you.
Should've switched over.
I'm Randall. Nice to meet you. Thank you for the opportunity to be of service. Put together a rough floor plan. Well, actually, just to back up, what we've done is we've field measured all of your existing facilities and created an as-built plan, so we have something to draw on top of. And then recently, City Manager Black asked me to, it's not like this, asked me to look at how the building 109 East Main might lay out, what we could use in there. Apparently you guys have had some visioning sessions, which is great to see what would be appropriate. So it seemed the major items that the city was interested, or at least that City Manager Black indicated to me, is the new council chambers in one of the wings of the building, and a lot of meeting space, multi-purpose type space, collaboration space, and then upstairs offices for the city manager and city secretary. So that's basically what we put together here. This is the site plan that shows a parking capacity of roughly 78 spaces on the first floor for 109 East Main. And then these are the floor plans that we put together. So in the southern wing there, you can see the council chambers that has 50 seats in it. And a dais with 8 at the dais, sitting behind the dais, and 3 staff members on either side. And then south of that is really a multi-purpose type training room on the south end of the north-south wings. North of that is the executive council conference room, so directly off the back of the dais. In the council chambers is an access that would get you directly to that room. It'll be a secure room. It'll also have a restroom and a galley kitchen in there, so you can have your meal before council chambers and use the restroom if someone needs to. There's some furniture storage there, since the council chambers will be a flat floor, and so will the training room to the south. And we are proposing a movable partition between those 2 rooms so they can be opened up and used as an even larger room. Movable partitions are not inexpensive. That's probably a $40,000 wall there, but if it's an acoustical wall, the type that you'd see in a hotel conferencing center, so that you can have conferences next to one another. But it's an acoustical wall with an STC rating of about 52, and that's roughly what I think it would cost. In order to make that happen, we need to put a new entrance and a new vestibule on the south end of the building, where there's a window now. So it faces Main Street. Up on the north end, of course, you know there are some structural issues that have to be dealt with in the building. But on the north end, where the main entrance is currently, there was discussion about having a banquet room. And I can't read it from here, the number of seats in there.
72.
72, thank you. So those are 6-foot tables with 6 to 8 seats around it. So It'll make a nice size banquet room that can be used for any number of purposes. It could be used for training. To the east of that, we show the collaboration space, which has some Genius Bar type tables and a large round table, some soft seating, and so that's just kind of a multi-purpose brainstorming, collaboration type space. I noticed some of the photos that were on the papers in the back had some sort of sliding glass rooms. We could do something like that. Any number of things there as far as collaboration space. We'll need to do some repairs and some upgrades to the 2 stairs that are in the building in order to use the 2nd floor, and we'll have to put in an elevator. So we've shown an elevator there in the center of the room so that collaboration space where it becomes the central entrance gathering space to the building with access to the banquet space to the west, the conference rooms to the east, the public restrooms to the east, and then you can either go that route down the hallway past some rentable offices that are on that corridor leading down to the council chambers from the collaboration space, or you can enter the council chambers directly, and you can enter the training space on the south end of the building directly. So that's a lot of entrances to the building. That's somewhat of a security issue, but the building is what it is, so we kind of have to work with what we have. Anyway, there are 3 rentable offices there on the left-hand side of that north-south corridor, on the west side in the crook of the elbow. And we've shown 2 conference rooms above the executive conference room that are available for people to use. And there are public restrooms in the northeast corner of the building, and those need some work. They're not quite worked out yet. Up on the 2nd floor, at the top of the stairs, there, of course, the elevator dumps out there. We have a small reception area, which we would presume would be an administrative executive assistant that would receive people coming to see the city manager or the city secretary or the assistant city manager. There's a conference room up there that seats probably 10 people. I think we have that oversized right now for that room. There's the city secretary's office at 185 square feet, the assistant city manager's office at 185 square feet, and the city manager's office, which I think is 275, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that's about middle of the road for a city manager's side office. And there's a restroom up there, because they're not gonna wanna go downstairs. So there's kind of a staff restroom up there, and then there's a small workroom up there, which wasn't asked for, but we know from experience that they're not gonna wanna have to go downstairs and make a copy, so. Those are kind of the minimal things that I think you need up on the 2nd floor. And so that's kind of, nothing concrete, just kind of an idea of what might be able to fit in the building, how many people would be able to be accommodated in those spaces, and with a number of different types of tables and seating, we could do a variety of different options as far as how people would use the building.
Yeah, again, Mayor and Council, my direction to Mr. Scott was, we have about 30,000 square feet of ideas and about 12,000 square feet to work with, so let's just get some things on paper, see how much room they're taking up, see what all we can get in there, and we can kind of provide some feedback.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and some of these will be red because they're required, like mechanical, elevator, those will have to be there. What's your estimation on an elevator? Install an elevator?
An elevator is gonna cost between $120,000 and $150,000 for a 2-step elevator.
Okay.
And there's maintenance costs in it. There's an annual maintenance that is required, and they're not cheap either, but.
Yeah, this will be the city's first elevator.
To have anybody that occupies the 2nd floor will require an elevator per the.
Oh, yeah.
day.
And Mayor and Council, just as a reminder, because this is a quote-unquote city hall facility, potentially we are not allowed to move exterior walls with certificates of obligation, which is what we're using to fund this. Is that correct? So that's why it's so important that we maximize the space that we have. I think you have to do a general obligation bond if you're gonna move the exterior walls,
You
right?
probably know more about that than I.
Okay.
What was the?
My understanding is that if you're using certificates of obligation on a city hall facility, you cannot change exterior walls. You have to work within the footprint that you have. I'll confirm with bond counsel, but I'm pretty sure that's why it's so important that we really wanna maximize all the space that we have. So when you talk about the cost of an elevator, that's why that's in there, because I don't think we can change the footprint without doing a different kind of bond than what we've done.
But if you were to build new ground up,
No, think it has to be a general obligation
It'll
bond.
be a GO.
Unless police or something like
Yeah.
that. Somebody.
It has to be adjacent to a public safety facility, there are all these legal implications.
That'll be the same thing if some of that money goes into this building. The footprint remains the
Yes.
same.
Well, this is different because it is adjacent to a public safety facility,
Oh, I see.
so there are different regulations for that.
More flexibility with CO
Yeah.
bonds if there's public safety involved.
What is the square footage of the upstairs total?
That's what I was gonna ask.
2,044.
2,000.
It's on there.
And the bottom is how much?
Is it written tiny?
Yes.
It's
Tiny.
10,152.
Okay, thanks, I got you. Yeah, okay.
Okay.
As
So
a
it's pretty
first,
close to like 100 by. Yeah, it's pretty square, right? So it's evenly divided. 2,000.
Oh, the second page.
Is this open for general questions? We can get.
Do you want to take questions?
Oh,
now, or you
absolutely,
wanna-
yeah, and there's nothing cast in place about it.
The upstairs, if you just use it potentially in the beginning for storage, our elevator may not be required if we went that route, right?
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
I know that mezzanines can be provided up to 1,500 square feet
Yes, sir.
without an elevator. Once you get above that, I'd have to check with our registered accessibility specialist to see if we could do that.
But you can always, later on, you could always add elevator later,
Yes, sir.
you know,
Good.
with structural support, the right, you know,
Right.
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it, I mean, kind of while the hood's up, is it cheaper to do the elevator now than it would later?
Oh, anything's cheaper now than it is later. Without a doubt.
Okay.
Well, yeah,
The city halls that we're designing today are 4 times the cost they were in 20 years ago.
I'm sure.
They double every 10 years.
Oh my God.
materials, just,
Yes, sir. I mean, it has nothing to do with inflation or escalation. Construction has its own numbers.
labor, materials, it
Yeah,
never stops.
You know, I can go on and on about the reasoning for that, but
Oh, yes, sir.
it is what it is.
So the council dais are here, or whatever the public dais is here, you said something, an idea was floating around about maybe partitioning that off at some point?
The training room, that is a partition.
No, I mean, just that itself.
Yeah, we were concerned about the room it would take up. When I talked to Mr. Scott on Friday, we couldn't move it far back enough to kind of partition that off
Oh, okay.
where the mechanical is.
Yeah, we were gonna try to partition off that
Yeah, but I
part so
think
that this could be just rearrangeable, usable space whenever we're
I
not holding.
see, okay.
But when I saw that he was able to get the banquet hall on one side and a training room on the other, I don't know that that becomes as important necessarily because you have those other spaces that are able to fit in there.
Yeah,
So,
the movable partition could actually go up in front of the dais, and then you'd have one large room that would not have the dais in it. We just have to have a door in that so people can get through it that are coming from the north, which we can do. They make movable partitions like that, so. If you want to cordon that off and protect it, we can certainly do that.
Yeah, I like that we
think,
have. Oh,
I
sorry.
think as a first run at the plans, I mean, I think this is great. I mean, this is exactly how I envisioned it, and we can move it around any way we want to.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, credit Ms. Black for that, she's the one that made the program.
Yeah, we wanted to provide some private office space for some of our city adjacent organizations. There's at least 3 of them here. And
Yeah, those
this
are about
space.
10 by 12.
I like that the furniture storage is near where we might need it. So I'd imagine that partition comes down when we have large city hall, not city hall.
Council,
Yeah, we have large council
meeting
meetings
decision.
that are,
great
Right.
exciting issues.
yeah, like we did for the fiber feasibility. I mean, we had people standing out in the hallway.
Yeah.
Kind of expanded out for that. We get exciting every once in a while.
Whatever we do, I hope that we have good quality partitions, and that I've seen so many times, people put a partition up, and you can hear,
Right.
it's just, it's worth paying a good, decent price, whatever it takes, insulation or whatever, to have privacy, and, because you have bleed through,
Yeah.
and all your,
There are some options to that.
yeah.
And you have to know what you're doing in order to make that happen. These
Yeah.
are existing walls, so it makes it more difficult to soundproof them.
Yeah.
So we'd have to cut holes in them,
blow.
blow some insulation in, and
Right.
still, that insulation over time settles, and then you might as well not have the insulation. The other thing that we can do is we can put acoustical panels on the walls, and that'll help absorb. It doesn't stop sound from going through, but it absorbs it before it goes through. And put a good ceiling in, and then make sure we seal all the joints at the bottom and the tops of the walls. There are a number of tricks that we can do to help.
Sure.
Mass is really the thing that helps the most,
Yeah.
like CMU. But, you know, we have existing walls that we're trying to keep.
Yes,
so.
sir.
If we move that partition up to be directly in front of the dais, then you wouldn't have two meetings going on at the same time, so that acoustics
Yeah.
may not matter as much.
So, when somebody first comes in this room,
Collaboration.
I guess we would need someone to direct them how to get up to the city manager and maybe around the corner to those three organizations. Is that maybe where a reception desk could go
Yeah,
to, just right inside that door?
we need to find somewhere for a reception desk, dedicated reception area on the first floor, and then, one other thing, sorry, Mayor, to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Any kind of kitchen space, I think we may want more accessible for anybody on the banquet space, trading room, or council chambers, so
Yeah,
maybe
that's a
maybe
good point.
some
We need to
slouching.
have probably ought to take one of those conference rooms and turn it into some type of a catering.
Yeah,
space.
and I'm
Yeah, for a
wondering,
banquet hall that big, you have to have a full kitchen where they can cater out of, I would think.
I'm wondering if you can take the conference room directly north of the executive conference room and
An
make
outside
that,
door to it.
have a door here
Yeah.
and make that the kitchen area.
That's a great idea.
So you'd be moving that stuff through the collaboration space into the
Mhm.
banquet hall?
Yes. But I think you could do a serving counter in the banquet hall. Potentially, but yeah, you would have to go through, the way this is now, through the collaboration.
All over our
space.
nice carpets, you know?
And the wall,
I know,
the wall
it's
between,
better to do something different. I don't know.
and why wouldn't we do a petition between the collaboration room and the banquet hall for a larger banquet versus a fixed wall?
Oh, a movable partition?
Yeah.
We could do
What
that, absolutely. Here's the thing. There gets to be a point, just like this room, if we were to make it longer, it really doesn't function very well as a room, right? There's a length to width ratio that kind of, once you exceed it, it becomes not very functional. And that's the reason why I put that door, that wall where I did, just because if you were to have some type of, you know, a person standing at one end and you move that wall, and you have people, you know, further back, I mean, they're just too far away.
Okay.
To really be able to engage.
Okay, so the idea with these offices on the first floor is that we would rent them to, like, our partner organizations would office out of them?
Like the EDC.
Okay,
yeah.
are they, is that like, they're in the office full-time, Monday through Friday?
That gives them a private space to store some of the stuff they need, some of their printed materials. It gives them private meeting spaces, and it allows for them to have, full-time.
So the way this is, Monday through Friday, if someone walks in to see the city secretary or the city manager, there's just gonna be a receptionist on the first floor and that's it. And they're gonna direct them upstairs.
Yeah. Which is kind of what we have now. If somebody walks in and wants to see the city manager, they talk to somebody that's in the.
I know, but they're only person on the bottom floor of 10,000 square feet.
Oh, that's true.
Or just some kind of,
Yeah.
signage pointing to the elevator, receptionist on second floor type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't sit downstairs by myself all day.
Oh, I would love it.
Oh my God.
We just gotta hire the right person.
More often
people
than
that
not,
are
you see
recharged.
that person answer the phones and be the traffic cop, so.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice to have a fresh face down there that helps you find who you need.
Yeah, I think there's just those small, puzzles. It's pretty much like, you're playing Tetris. You only got so many pieces. They all gotta fit.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a great start to the
Yeah, this is a
puzzle.
great. This is a great.
It
start.
is, it really
It
is.
really shows the
It's right,
potential.
Miss Black, she's the one who came up with the ideas.
Excellent.
I do have the other as-built plans of the other buildings, if you're interested in seeing those, if not, then
Yeah.
they're there. So, this is the building that we're in, and one of the questions Ms. Black asked was if this room that we're in could be used as a training room. It can be. I was sitting halfway back, and It's a little tough because of that length to width ratio that I was talking about, but it could be done. So, you know, it's not gonna be, is it ideal? No, it's not, but it could be done.
So one of the things we run into right now, Mayor and Council, the reason why I was asking that, we have nowhere, none of our current city facilities accommodate our staff. So if we're sitting down to a meal together or any kind of training that we need to do with our entire team, we're doing it in the fire department base, which is great. We're very glad that they accommodate us and host us, but certainly not ideal for any type of all hands
They just
meeting.
move out a fire truck?
They do, or two. And so, yeah, a place where we could at least accommodate our staff would be great.
There's the acoustics and the temperature control in there, probably not. The difficulty with this building is that it's a wood frame building, so it's like your house, they're all low bearing walls from wood. Leslie's been, has been able to tell me, so we could take some walls out, but if you do that, you have to put beams in and columns, which isn't the end of the world, you can do that, but, it lowers, the ceiling height at that beam, so you're walking underneath the beam in the middle of a room. But you're, like, if we were to take this wall out to try to create the proper dimensions for a training room, we'd have a beam that's probably 2 feet tall that's running across there in the middle of the room. So that's why it makes it difficult to modify a wood frame.
Yeah.
But, you know, the room could be used for training, and there are restrooms here that could be modified, and there's a room large enough to put a catering kitchen in, so it could be used for.
It'd be good to have a space where we could host some of the trainings that need to happen for fire and police, and even for city management or city staff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be good to have that.
Bottom line is, we need it.
Yeah.
We need it.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
even a room that's not the best proportions is probably better than no room at all. But the one thing I would do about this room is I'd repair the acoustics, so they need some help.
And the AC vents when it's hot, 'cause they both pour down.
Yeah, people in there, Deb and their brown, we're over here.
You're on this end right here, you don't get any air.
Maybe you're signing up for the hot seat.
There you go.
And there's some office space in the building, so you could
Yeah.
probably also rent some of those out.
A lot of wasted space.
There's a walk-in safe over there. Are those worth getting rid of, or?
Well, I mean, they're not worth anything, if that's what you're.
No, I mean, are they worth trying to pull out, or do you just work around them, or?
Probably 6 one way, half dozen other, you know,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
You get, yeah, I mean, I don't know what you'd put in there.
Pantry,
Yeah, I guess so.
dry pantry is what I put in there.
Yeah, it'd be great for storage.
Yeah,
Just don't get locked in there.
Yeah, no, that's
Yeah,
paranoid.
Because there's nobody to get you out.
Oh,
Susan
God.
has to like turn her head just right to get it open.
Yuck.
this is the existing city hall police floor plan. The building's in pretty good shape, really. There's not a lot that needs to be done to it, other than some outside aesthetic things. Police department seemed to be quite happy with their facilities, and when we discussed it with them, city staff, I think, is a little short in terms of space, and that's the reason for the discussion about what money is meant.
Well, we actually have holding cells in there that I don't think we
That's
even
true.
use anymore, right?
That is correct. And I don't think there's an intent to do that in the future, so.
One thing good is that there's, over here, it might help with the police department to expand and have extra. You know, as the city grows, we're gonna need more officers and more, maybe bigger evidence room, I don't know. We
Yeah.
could use the safe in there for an evidence room.
So
So it's just thinking out
Those
loud.
lockers could, I mean, the cells that are there could be configured to be used as evidence.
they have plenty of evidence storage for now, though.
Oh, is it?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
So my main concern about staff growth is more on the administrative side. As you all know, we're working on a staffing plan to present to you as part of our budget process. And,
Yeah.
we're really gonna need the room on the administrative side. I think we're pretty well set on the police department side to accommodate the positions in the staffing plan that we've drafted.
Yeah, I was hinted to on the second floor of that first building, assistant city manager. That's
Yeah.
one of the, yeah. it's
I noticed that too.
one of the things.
So one thing that you might wanna consider on the existing city hall building is to take this building down and expand that building this direction. Because the thing about putting your city manager, ACM, and city secretary over there is you've now got the problem we're always trying to fix for cities. They've got people spread all over the city, and they're always looking for a new city hall to bring everybody back together, so. You might wanna consider that option for, as far as staff is concerned. And
That option was what again?
to, take this building down and move the city, expand the city hall this direction. Because this is the side where city administrative offices are,
Right.
so by expanding that, you keep all of your administrative staff together.
So as opposed to moving part of them over there. Yeah, I've never liked the fact that we've had a breezeway here between the two buildings. That just never seems safe, right?
Yeah, well, for that matter, I mean, we could expand the administrative staff and build a new city council chambers. And that would probably be the best of all worlds.
Well, yeah, cause then the other building can really be the extra things that we need, but that aren't Monday through Friday. So then you would save on HVAC, utilities and things, cause they wouldn't be in use constantly.
Yeah, the biggest thing there really is dividing staff, honestly, that.
It's a
We do city
nightmare.
halls all the time, and it's all about trying to get people back together because they've done that.
I think there's wisdom in what you're saying.
I'm sorry.
There's wisdom in what you're saying. We're
Oh.
supposed to be listening right now.
Several years of school of hard knocks working the city's
But that's true, and not just for public service,
That's
but in
true.
the private
Literally
sector.
saying in 10 years
We
we're
all
gonna
have
call
a
it back, bring
cohesiveness
it all back
and
together.
work together when we're together, you know.
Right. So, anyway, might be worth thinking
And
about.
because this building is adjacent to
Police,
there, we can.
you can do COs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that's another permutation, things to consider.
Well, and when you build a council chambers new, you have the chance to do it right. When you build one in an existing facility, you live with some things that you'd rather not.
Right. That's when it would be worth it to take the safe out, right? When the building comes down.
So,
Yeah, get rid of
right
it,
now,
yeah.
this building's really just used for these type of meetings, and like the only other time I've been here is when we've done our trainings. Okay, so if this was raised, that was added on, and we did the city hall and did new offices and had a little more space because we'd use the breezeway, then it'd be plenty of room.
It would, the things I would caution you to keep in mind, that would change whatever parking we do on this side of the building,
Sure.
because that's how it's accessed now. And we're already somewhat limited on
I was
parking.
gonna say, we are maxed out on
This
parking
current
during the day
facility.
sometimes, yeah.
Well, we are.
But I do think, as far as parking for the park, I think we all understand the limitations, and he'll get to this in a second, so I'm not trying to jump ahead of him. Limitations with our current fire department, and what the future may hold for that facility would open up some parking in the future potentially, depending on what you all decide to do. But just something to keep in mind, that if we raise this and expand this way, what that
We are
does
gonna
to
lose some parking.
some parking. But it's
Okay.
7 or 8 spots, it's not.
And I think when we started this whole brainstorming on this thing, the idea behind this building was to have a one-stop shop basically for new, citizens, anybody thinking about moving to White House, where you go to one place and every organization's represented.
Yes, a community center.
Exactly,
Yeah.
community center.
As a more welcoming face, maybe, than what we would have to have in the same facility that we're doing court and utility collections and police. Maybe it has to be a little bit more restrictive, but a lot to think about.
So the next building is the library, which is really interesting. Little building.
It's a circle.
Yeah. So, I mean, the librarians seem to really like it and didn't seem to have any major issues with it, so. But it's unique. The existing fire station is significantly inadequate for their needs.
So I will say back on the library,
Yep.
they are lacking storage. You can tell because of where they store things along the ramp that
Along the
leads
ramp.
up there. Yeah, did you tour these facilities?
I did.
Very true.
You did.
So, yeah, if we could extend to them some storage somehow, that would be good. And I don't think they're keeping anything in excess, it's just more tables, something along those lines.
I wonder if we have, I did speak to them about 109 East Main, and if they could use that for things like story time or their
Yeah.
craft days, if they would be amenable to that, because sometimes, you know, the whole point is to get people in the library, so I
Right,
wasn't
that's
sure
true.
how they would feel
To
about.
expose people to the library.
Right, and so I wasn't sure how they would feel about a different location, but at the time, they seemed open to it, so we'll continue that conversation and just make sure they think that would work, cause I know that's where they really struggle, is when they do story time or craft time. Anytime they have groups, it's hard to accommodate it, so that may give them a little bit of breathing room, and they maybe wouldn't have to store as much tables and some of those kind of things.
Sure.
But-
Oh, that facilitates those activities, yeah.
The thing about libraries today is they're really a lot less about stacks and a lot more about collaborative space. Being able to pull people together, get them on computers, get them in recruiting studios, maker spaces, that's where libraries are today.
Yeah, ours got it going on. You can rent DVDs over there. It's one of the few places you can do that. You can rent a jigsaw puzzle. You can go over there and check out a jigsaw puzzle and take it home for the weekend and do it and bring it back. I think that's amazing.
So I think maybe some adjustment to the amount of stack space would allow you
How
to
much did they pay you?
use some of that
The
for
library.
storage.
Oh, nothing.
Or an addition could be done.
It's just, I mean, a
So-
jigsaw puzzle. You put together. and
So they'd have to be round.
You're just like,
Right.
Yeah, so relative to the library, not the library, I'm sorry, the fire station. The odd thing here is that the bunker gear, room and the wash bay are, on the opposite side of the apparatus bay from the operations side. And they don't have enough bay space. So, the facility is antiquated. And the big thing about fire stations today is, statistically, we've seen that firemen, about 65 to 68% of firemen deal with cancer towards the end of their life as a result of
Right.
what they're exposed to in their career. And we're designing facilities much differently today, where the living quarters have positive air pressure and it flows out into the bays. It can't get from the bays in. They have two sets of bunker gear, one that they've used and one that's clean, so when they go out next time, it's clean and the other one is being washed.
Is it mesothelioma? Is that normally what it is?
Sorry?
Is it mesothelioma? Is it asbestos level or?
No, it's carcinogens.
All the plastics that melt and
Right.
all the,
Foam and the stuff that's
benzene
in
and
their
all the-
equipment. And so anyway, in deference to the quality of life for firemen, we are making significant changes to how those fire stations are built today. So that's what we're thinking.
So is this even usable to make what it needs to be?
I wouldn't think so.
Okay.
I think it's a do-over.
What is it missing as far as a footprint? What plat size would be needed to facilitate a modern
How many acres would you need? Is that the
acres?
question
Yeah,
or
let's
size?
start with acres.
Let's start.
I was going in square feet.
Yeah.
Oh, square footage. Square footage for a central fire station is probably on the order of 16,000, 16,500, somewhere in that neighborhood.
So something, I mean, bigger than that building, and that counts the upstairs too, so that's kind of strange,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So
So
we
it
start
needs,
thinking about bays, counting
Yeah.
in that square footage.
does that include the base?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, that includes the base,
And what is the square footage of this one?
I was looking for it, I don't think
yeah.
it's
Don't
on
have
there.
that off the top of my head, to be honest with you.
Are we still
Say
building?
Probably about 8,000.
Okay.
Oh, here, yeah. Are we still building them two-story? Are they all singles? There's no fire poles anymore?
well,
Not if you can help it. I mean, we put them in for
it
nostalgia.
depends, it depends.
We put them in for nostalgia, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're a health hazard.
I think we definitely ought to look at the very least, expanding the fire department. I mean, I don't know how the funds are gonna work out or all this is gonna cost when it settles.
Yeah, we have some issues with the current facility now. This is an add-on. I think the front is an add-on to the bays in the back that have some serious separation that we're having to deal with on a
Yeah.
regular basis. There's some
They're coming
current
apart.
conditions,
like,
yeah, that
those things.
they're kind of separating, so
I
there are
don't
some
think
things.
they have an exhaust system in there.
Yeah.
The carcinogens.
So what's the solution?
A new fire station.
Where?
Well, we're looking, that'll be on our capital improvement plan, I think, and maybe a recommendation out of this study.
I went
Start looking at.
on a tour today, thank you, Chief, And, definitely, everywhere I looked, there was gear. They just don't have any room. They're living quarters. There's no privacy, zero. We have a female one day, that's another issue.
That's a big issue today.
When the trucks start, there's no exhaust,
Right.
you know, what do you call it?
The system.
Systems.
System, yeah.
Something's gotta be done.
Yeah, it's,
It's got to be done, you know. Bunker gear,
When is the capital plan you were just talking about? When do you expect that to be ready?
That's later on the agenda, so let's.
Okay, so like tonight's agenda,
Yes,
we're
it's
gonna
on
get there,
tonight's
okay.
They hook these onto the exhaust, so when they
Oh,
pull
that's
out,
the
it
first
pops
jerks
off.
off, yeah.
um,
It's another thing they don't have to worry
Public
about.
Works building is basically a three-engineer metal building with a few offices in there. I gather the building itself is usable, but really the offices and restrooms and training space in there are not.
Is this one off a railroad over there?
Yeah, right across from the senior center.
Yeah.
So, some interior renovations on that building are necessary.
Oh, one more thing, the fire station has a water leak, and it needs to be addressed too. The sooner the better, you know.
Yeah, water leaks can lead to other issues, as we all know. So that's the Public Works building. The rec center is being well used and I think generally meets the city's needs from what we've been told. So that's what it looks like. Some minor changes we want for. Senior center is really a trailer type building, a portable type building, and you know, so it probably needs to be considered for. Am I speaking on terms?
No.
Okay. Needs to be considered for replacement. Or, you know, that might be an option that could be utilized over at the 109 East Main. To us, that seemed like an option that I didn't hear it come out, so.
Yeah.
If council were to move over here, maybe it takes up the space that council would have taken. Something to consider. I mean, I think that building is a pretty ideal candidate for that type of space, because they need really just kind of big assembly type areas.
How much land is that building on?
Just fixing to ask
It's
this good
small,
question.
it's a small parcel.
Couple acres, 3
It's not very
acres.
deep. The senior center?
Yeah, it's
The
not
current
even-
senior center.
Not even
Yeah.
an acre, probably.
Oh,
I doubt it. Yeah,
Okay.
Probably a third.
yeah, it's,
And does that property connect with the Public Works property?
so it connects with what was the recycle center.
Yeah.
Which we didn't have Mr. Scott look at, it's on the opposite side of the street than the public works farm.
That's right. How much land is there total?
I'll have to look.
Is that recycle center being used for something?
Yeah, so we use it for our street department materials, it's used to house all of our Christmas decorations and some other materials,
Oh, okay.
so it's actively used.
So that's where we're at. Any questions I can answer?
Oh, that was the last one?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
It's like, great.
So enough said.
No, that was great. That was great information.
Good stuff.
Good, I'm glad it was helpful. We look forward to assisting you with anything else that we can, and we've got some additional information to document on the existing buildings, but if we can help you in any way, let me know.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, appreciate you. All right, any more discussion around this facilities planning presentation?
So, Mayor and Council, what I would ask, because that was a lot of information, I'm not trying to jump ahead of you, Mayor, that was a lot of information, if you would take this presentation with you, if you wanna send me your feedback and comments maybe by Friday, cause that can be enough time on kind of thinking through this, and I can get those
Yes.
back over to Mr. Scott. I'll kind of compile them, and I'll send them maybe back to all of you as a complete list, and I'll send them to Mr. Scott as well and see what we can get addressed. Sound good?
It works for me.
Okay.
And this is just kind of the beginning. As we'll see further down the agenda, we have commissions opening, like board commissions openings, and one of those is gonna be community input, community-led operation of input.
And one thing I've noticed that you've got to do is you have to be forward thinking. And like the fire department right now, I mean, is it in the ideal place for where's our city growing, and, you know, you have to look at these things, so. You know, you can't look at it now, you have to look at it 10 years, 15, 20. so.
Yeah, I think right now I can pretty easily get on 110 or 346, which is probably the main artery, so we might wanna keep it. Yeah, access, I mean, the chief would know best.
That's right.
Where,
Central location and easy access are
right.
the two biggest things for response time.
Sure.
Alright, so that takes us to item H2, consider approval of fiscal year end 2021 audit by Gollob, Morgan & Peddy. We have a big presentation here, this is good.
Mayor and Council, Kevin Cashin with Gollob, Morgan & Peddy is here to present the fiscal year end 2021 audit.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Unfortunately, my presentation is not near as fun as spending millions of dollars on new facilities. But because of the need to spend those millions of dollars, you have to have audit services.
That's right.
I pick up on that. I'm not gonna go through this in detail tonight. We spent some time, Leslie, myself, and Jennifer spent quite a bit of time going through things last week and everything. And we've supplied Jennifer with all the journal entries from the audit that she'll be getting into the books to tie everything out to our final reports. And before I go any further, I just want to say how much we appreciate your staff. They do a great job for you. They do a great job for us in producing your audit each year. And we do appreciate them so much and all that they do. So you got a great group of people here, and I know you're aware of that, and we appreciate them so much. I just want to touch on a few things. First of all, I did present a letter tonight. This is a required communication letter through government auditing standards. It's something that we present each year. I don't generally go over it every year because I hate to use the word boilerplate, but to some degree it is a boilerplate about the standards, but there are certain things in here that need to be, that have to be addressed to you as a council, because you are the governing body of the city. You are the one that's charged with governance over the city of White House. So that's what this letter communicates, several things in relation to accounting practices, policies, some of the things related to significant estimates in your report, which primarily deal with the collectability of property taxes, fines, those things. Those are things that have to be basically are estimated each year. They're an unknown, but we have to come up with an estimate each year to look at that. We also deal with significant disclosures. The biggest disclosure you have in your report, year in and year out, deals with your defined benefit pension plan with TMRS, and then your post-employment benefit plan that you have. It talks about the uncorrected and corrected misstatements. We did not have any adjusting entries that we in essence passed on because of materiality. Everything was posted this year, and again, we've supplied that to your administration. We do get a rep letter each year that's signed by Leslie and Jennifer, basically on the representations on behalf of the city. Everything's been presented to us, everything's in order, and then mainly that they've reviewed the report and that they have a clear understanding of it. And that's part of why we meet each year, is to help them with that understanding. So I'll go over a few things tonight in your financials. The first thing really is the first 2 pages of your report deal with our opinion. And that's really why you hired us. The financial statements of the city are your responsibility as a governing board and your administration that you charge with that. We're hired to render an opinion on the financial statements of the city. This report is for the year ending, of course, September 30th, 2021. This is considered to be an unmodified opinion. If you've ever heard that used before, I'll just give you the plain and simple East Texas terminology. It's a clean audit opinion. This is the highest opinion we can render on your statements. It's the same opinion we've rendered every year since we've been associated with the city of White House. The next section behind our opinion gets into what's called management's discussion and analysis, and I'm just going to bring out a few things, just kind of highlights for the year. You had a very good year. You're in a very good position now. That's why you can have some of the discussions like what you had before I came up here tonight. You are, in reference to what you mentioned, forward thinking, you are doing that. I can remember a point in time in the city where that wasn't present. That's not something that was being done. There was a time and place where we were just trying to make sure we had enough money to pay the bills. So we're not in that position anymore, and that's a great thing. So you're able to look ahead, think ahead, and so you're in a very good position now. So I want to kind of go over a few things there. If you go on to page 5, you're gonna see a couple of tables there. I'm not gonna get into the deep weeds of things, but I just wanna point out a few things just to kind of show you some of the significant things that happened in the fiscal year 21. The MD&A part of your report is the only place you're gonna see where you're gonna see a comparison between your current year and prior year. The rest of the report, going all the way back, really deals with the fiscal year of 21. This is where you can kind of see some comparisons, which I think is very relevant for you as a council, because I think it's important that you see how you've progressed from one year to the next. So there's two columns you'll see throughout the two tables there on page 5. One is titled governmental activities, one is titled business type activities. So I'll just kind of, business type activities deal with your water sewer operations, okay? Your governmental activities is primarily your general fund. There are some other funds that tie in there. Basically, you have some capital projects funds that you utilize for spending of bond money. Some of the bond money you received in prior years, primarily dealing with street improvements. That's one of the big things that you've had to focus on here in the last 2 to 3 years, is improving some of your infrastructure and streets and your drainage and those type of things. So that's where a lot of that focus is in on that side. And of course, your primary operating fund is your general fund. And that's what falls into place over there as well. So let's just look real quick at the governmental activities. The current, this is kind of a broad presentation. The current and other assets, you'll see increase from a little over 5.1 million to 6.6. That's about a $1.5 million increase. Now, two primary things consist of that. Your general fund, your cash position increased $657,000. So that's a positive. Anytime we end the year with more money than we started, that's a good thing. Our general fund cash went up $657,000. Also, one of the new things that happened, you received $1.1 million through the American Rescue Plan. This is I like to call this is COVID 2. Okay, this is the follow-up to the original COVID money. And that is money that you have sitting available. The money that was received, we have basically deferred it because you have not spent any of it yet. It will be taken into revenue in the future years as you spend those grant funds. That's the way you're required to present that money. So as you see that increase there, if you go down a little ways, if you look at it says deferred outflows of resources, you'll see a significant increase there of $250,000 to $1.3 million. Okay, that's where that money sits. Okay, it's deferred for future years, and that's the money y'all are going to be looking to spend over the next course of the several years. So again, that's something important. That's free money, guys. Sure. Money you're going to be able to utilize for some things that you need to do, some things you can do. And that's one of the things your administration is looking at now is how can we spend those funds? There are a lot of freedoms. Your hands are not tied too terribly bad, I like to think, is the way they are in some grant programs. But there are specific things you're going to have to use that money for. Capital assets. I want to focus on that because you've heard, that's a big thing with city governments is how do you utilize your capital assets? How do you utilize your infrastructure? So I want you to flip back into the footnotes to explain a few things. Go back to page 30. If you're looking on your screen, I'll give you a minute to scroll there. If you've got a hard copy, you want to flip back, go back to page 30. And there's a table there that kind of shows a change in your capital assets for your governmental activities. The significant things that happened during the year was, if you see your infrastructure increase to $296,000, that was money spent related to your Hagen Road project that came out of some bond money that you got in years past. The construction in progress, you see we spent $438,000, and then basically that got capitalized into something. The buildings and improvements went up $439,000. That's where 109 East Main comes into play. That was a new building you acquired. And then the rest of that was some parking lot improvements you did for your police station. So those two significant projects are what make up that $439,000. You had the other significant thing that took place during this past year was you got rid of all your old vehicles. you enter into a new lease program, okay, with Enterprise. And if you look there under machinery and equipment, a $655,000 increase during the year, $585,000 of that was vehicles you put into service. You're accounting for those through what we call an internal service fund. Okay, that's your vehicle replacement fund. And basically you account for those assets in that fund, and basically you centralize everything into one fund, and then you basically charge your general fund for its portion of those costs, and you charge your water and sewer fund for its portion of those costs. And that's the way you basically monitor, instead of trying to charge off a bunch of expenses through 8 different departments, you're basically charging it off through one fund, and you're letting these other funds basically help fund those operations or your vehicle and your fleet maintenance. So that was a significant thing that took place during the year. Okay, so let's go back and look at the second thing. Of course, this is what's really, to me, is important for you as a council, is to see basically the changes in your revenue and expenses for the year. So the bottom table on page 5 deals with that. So if you look, I always like to kind of start at the bottom and work my way back. All right, so if you go down to the very bottom there, you'll see your change in net position for the year, which is basically your net income. Okay, on the governmental side, you'll see we had a positive increase in net position of $1.585 million. That's compared to 1.752 the year before, which really is pretty well in line. The significant differences are if you go up a little ways and you look in the revenues, you'll see they went from 6.8 to 6.829. Not a big change, but if you look at the grant revenues, we recognized $561,000 of grant revenues the year before. Most of that was COVID related. This year we did. That goes back to the fact that we had to defer the grant monies we received. Okay, they're sitting in a liability account. So we didn't recognize those in revenues, although we do have the cash. If you look at the other things that are of significance, you'll see increase in property taxes, slight increase in your franchise taxes. Your sales tax revenues are starting to build back up. As you're starting to commercialize more, you're seeing more businesses come into White House. You're going to see your sales tax dollars continue to go. My goodness, you're getting a Starbucks. Come on, you've arrived. Okay,
That's
you got
right.
a Starbucks.
It's true.
That's a big deal.
I mean,
I mean, think about it. When I drove through the other day, and I don't get to White House as often as I used to because I've moved into Tyler now. And when I come through and I saw that going at the old Morse drywall location, I'm like, what in the world is that? So I came in, I said, Jennifer, what's going down at the old Morse drywall location? She said, that's a Starbucks. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. A Starbucks in White House, Texas. Hey. So anyway, so you're going to just continue to see those sales tax dollars increase through the years to come. The gain and loss on sale of assets, a lot of that comes about because we got rid of those older vehicles. That's where that comes about. But again, overall, our revenues, I look at it as more of a positive increase. Our charges for services went up about $287,000. That's related to an increase on the garbage side in our collections, and then our fines went up $150,000 from the year before. Okay, your officers like to ride in those new vehicles and get out and issue tickets. Okay, that's one way to look
like
at it.
driving down these smooth roads fast.
So that's good. On the business type side, kind of looking at those again, this is primarily focusing on your water and sewer operations. Your charges for services were up some. Property tax over there on that side was up some. That's primarily money that's going in to pay towards debt. Okay, on that side, a lot of those bonds. And I'm going to look at that here in a minute with you. But overall, your revenues went from $3.5 million, 3.8, about $346,000 increase. Your expenses on the water and sewer side were relatively flat, and when you take into account the transfers, you had a change in net position in 21 of $778,000 compared to $750,000 the year before. So if you look at the overall total increase in net position, it was $2.363 million in 21 compared to $2.502 the year before. So it's only about $138,000 difference, which is not a big number in the whole scheme of things. Okay. All right, any questions on that? Okay. I do want to point out one other thing I think is of significance. And go back to the very back, and this is something that we presented in your report for many, many years. It's on the last, Schedule 14, I don't have a page number on my copy. 73. Thank you, 73, it's at the very back.
73?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I think it's important that you look at this. This is basically shows your total indebtedness, bonded indebtedness and notes. You also see this year the inclusion of the capital lease that you have with Enterprise. That's new. And if you look at this, it gives you a picture of what you paid in debt for the year. It gives you an outstanding balance at 9/30/21. It shows you the principal and interest in the current fiscal year that you owe. And then it also shows you interest in future years, not principal, but interest in future years. One of the things you just recently did that's disclosed in your footnotes, you just finalized a new bond issue. One, you're doing a refunding issue on the 2012 issue you have in place today. And then you have another portion of that is going to be new money that you're going to utilize going forward for possibly expansion of your facilities and some of those things. So again, you're taking advantage. A better financial position puts you in a better position as far as a better interest rate, and that's what you've taken advantage of basically by refunding some old debt with new debt to get a better interest rate. So that's something you always have to look at and consider. If you have bonds that can be called and you can't get a better rate of return related to those on what you pay. So that's something exciting again that you're being able to do. And that's better utilized. Basically, when we talked about this last week, you're basically getting some new bonded debt, but your overall debt service is not changing. You're not having to increase. You're not bearing it to the taxpayer. So that's a great thing. You're able to keep that the interest and sinking rate at the same that you have today. So that's great. And you're going to utilize that money for future expansion and for that forward thinking that you talked about earlier. So that's all I have for you tonight. I'll entertain any questions. I know for a fact a lot of this in here is out of your wheelhouse. I understand that. I can assure you that you're in a very good position. And there's years that I could stand here and I honestly couldn't say that. But you're in a very good position now. You're doing great things as a council. You have great staff. So you're going in the right direction and be very proud of that. Mayor, anything?
Any
Leslie?
questions from council?
I just know why I didn't major in accounting. Yeah, I admire you guys, man.
I've been doing it for a long time. So
Oh, yeah.
I thought you explained it very well. We
You
appreciate it.
did, you did, really did.
I try to put it on terms that you'll understand.
Yeah.
Mayor and council, a big, very, very big thank you to Jennifer Lusk, who the brunt of this work, record keeping and
Yes.
providing the information to Gollob, Morgan, and Peddy falls on. She rocks it every year, and this year was no exception.
She does
so
a great job.
a very big thank you to her for all the work
She
that
does.
goes into this.
And we ask a lot of her. She does a great job. She does. We try to make it easy on her, but there's a lot of information you have to gather together to put into this report. There really is. So she does a wonderful job.
We definitely do appreciate her, and it's weird, she likes this stuff.
She loves it. Okay.
That's true, Mayor.
Do you want to stand up and say something, Jennifer?
She hates the public.
She loves it.
Speech.
Thankfully, she loves the record keeping and the financials way more than public speaking.
Well, I sure miss seeing you at the school board meetings here.
I miss being there, but I have more time to do this. And that's kind of where I got to. The job demands had gotten too great to where, I just couldn't spend the time and effort that I needed to anymore. Plus, my kids have been out of school for a number of years now. I'm getting a little long in the tooth, so it was time to move on and take my interest elsewhere. But it's great that I'm still associated with the city. I'm still connected in that manner out here. White House is a great place to be, a great place to raise a family. I tell people that all the time. And I'll always be an advocate for White House.
I'm glad we can still pull you down here every once
Yes,
in a while.
it's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
All right, that takes us to item H3, discuss.
We need action. on
Yeah,
that.
we
need to
accept
approve
this.
Accept the audit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let me reset myself, I'm sorry. All right, so you have a recommendation from staff in front of you. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve fiscal year end 2021 audit by Gollob, Morgan, and Peddy.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Does this require a roll call?
Let's do it.
Yeah, roll call. All right, take a roll call vote, please.
Give me 1 moment. All right, Michael Lowe,
Yes.
John Chambers,
Yes.
Georgia Harris,
Yes.
Zach Briscoe.
Yes.
All right, with that, it's approved. Thank you, Mr. Cashin.
Thank you.
All right, so now we're moving on to item H3, discuss, consider, and act upon authorizing the city manager to execute a contract amendment with Cobb Fendley to conduct a fiber network feasibility study and needs assessment.
Mayor and council, this is just a minor amendment to a contract that you had already approved. This is updating the schedule of deliverables and adding in the fee summary. The total amount for the contract doesn't change, and like I said, it was just a ministerial change to update with that information. We didn't have that when we presented the contract to you in December. So again, it's just an update. The timeline right now is an estimated completion date and presentation to you at your April 12th council meeting.
Okay.
It's a sprint.
It's a what now?
It's a sprint to get to that April 12th.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an aggressive timeline that they've given us. So, but it looks like in the implementation strategy, it seems to end on the 22nd, April the 22nd. Phase 3.
Could be because they're planning to present on April 12th. It could be that they're just giving themselves a little bit of time to take your recommendations back. I'll check with them.
So that will set them up to either the first or the second council meeting in.
Yes, but I know they're shooting for the first council
Right.
meeting.
That's good. Yeah, we've had a great town hall. We've had a great experience with these professionals, and if they think that that's the time they can get it done in, it seems feasible. Fiber feasible.
Do you need a motion for this amendment?
Yes, please.
I will entertain a motion to add this amendment for the feasibility study.
Can I make a motion? All right, I have a motion from Councilwoman Harris.
A second.
Second from Councilman Lowe. Any further discussion?
I just want to say thank you, staff, for a great town meeting. Also, something I noticed that was really a big deal for me. I sat on the very back of the place and I could hear. And I mean, it's important, and thank you for the audio, and it just went great.
I hate that I had to miss it.
Turnout was good. Or I
Yeah.
felt like it
Yes, but
Yeah, there was no room to sit.
exactly, I mean, that's a telltale sign.
Yeah.
There is a cord, when you push that podium back, there's
Yeah.
a cord that connects to
was. We were
the,
in the hall.
and you have to straddle the cord. And, I was speaking to Cobb Fendley afterwards, I was like, now keep in mind, normally that's not there, we don't just straddle the cord, they're like, oh yeah, normally it's pushed up against there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We definitely have some limitations in our current facility.
yeah.
But it was great.
It was great,
Yes.
yeah. Lots of community input on that, lots of great questions.
Sure was.
And they did a pretty good job of answering all those questions.
And we even had an ISP in the audience.
We did, yeah. Commercial
We had a
ISP.
couple, actually.
Yeah. That's right. So, yeah, that's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, that takes us to item H4, discussion of board and commission openings.
Mayor and council, if you'll remember back when we first started talking about issuing the $10 million bond that we are gonna use partly for facilities and for other uses, one of the things that, I told you then was that we needed to pull together a couple of different committees. We need a capital improvements committee made up of citizens to look at all of our capital needs. That includes everything from, water and sewer infrastructure to parks to facilities. Anything that may come out of any of those studies or things that staff is aware of that we may need to update. I think last I checked that that list was, I don't remember how many millions of dollars of identified projects that we need to review,
Uh,
prioritize.
Close to 17?
17 million, probably. So as usual, our needs far extend, our financial capabilities, so we need to prioritize those, vet those with members of the public. And so what I'm proposing is to put together a capital improvements committee to help us do that. The other committees that are mentioned in my staff report, it is time that we put together a citizens committee to review our home rule charter. That's required by our charter to be done every 5 years, and we are at the 5-year mark. And then we have a couple of vacancies in our Planning and Zoning Commission and our Economic Development Corporation Board of Directors. So what I'm proposing, I've put together the application, and we will start publicizing that. I don't really need any specific action from you other than direction that you're okay with forming the capital improvements committee. And then we will continue on with both the charter and planning and zoning and economic development. And as those applications come in, we will have them before you for your consideration. So staff is just looking for any direction or discussion that you may have on that.
So for all of the committees you need, do people have to actually apply and be approved for all of them?
Yes.
Like a Pratt. On one of those.
Do any of those committees require that they be citizens of White House city limits proper?
I believe the home rule charter probably does, and my recommendation on capital improvements would be that a majority, if not all of those members live within the city, because there are some very real tax impacts and implications to that committee. EDC is not required to live within the city limits. Planning and zoning probably is.
Yes.
So between those two organizations, capital improvements, homeroom charter, you're talking probably 8 to 10 people that's needed total. Or-
Home rule charter can be as many as 5, I believe, and up to 15 or 16.
Is it
Capital,
as few as 5?
yes.
Okay.
And then capital improvements could be any number you desire. I would probably stick to 6 to 8, maybe 10 at the most.
There's just so much talent in the community. I wish there was a way that we could tap more people and get their interest. And
And that's the goal here, so.
I know.
Is it okay for us to recruit or seek
Yeah,
out
I think
volunteers?
that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, just send names, give them the applications, and
Yeah.
they'll come
I can
through.
send you a clean copy of the application.
And if it's somebody that has served on council before and guffaws at having to fill out an application, tell them to deal with it to fill out the application. Just saying.
So home rule charter, I believe those committee meetings are limited to a 6-month span before the council has to take action on them. So we'd like to get that underway pretty quickly.
There's a lot to review there too.
There's a lot in the charter, and any familiarity with government and processes is helpful.
That doesn't sound like you're gonna get anybody. in
I
that.
know.
I know, what are you gonna do?
It is one of my favorite things, though. It's like writing a constitution
If
for
you
your
find the
local
right
government.
people.
It is.
I mean,
It is.
it is.
Like you said, Paul Hickey would be really good.
I like that. Yes, I mean, they're very talented people, so.
Ex-council members, it's a
Give
great
it
time
to the
for them
domino
to
players.
come back in.
They play all day, drink coffee. That's a good little,
Unrealized potential is what you're going for.
or do we have a book club?
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
I'd like to see the EDC, I like the fact that you don't have to necessarily live in the city limits, because again, we're looking for talent, you know, and forward thinking, especially with EDC, because the sky's the limit, you know.
Yeah, that's nice. So the exception to living inside the city, for the ones that are not prohibited by state law, which I think that that we're required to have people live inside the city for planning and zoning, right? Certainly council.
Yeah.
But somebody that's an exceptional subject matter expert that finds their way onto those other committees would definitely be worth it. Somebody who's super capable.
An engineer is always helpful to have on your capital
Right.
improvements committee, because it's very technical, can be for some of those things.
We need somebody that can help put everything that's brought our way under the sniff test to
Sure.
make sure that it's feasible and cost effective.
Maybe we can, I know you will, address social media and try to maybe, you know, somebody retired corporate, marketing, you know, for EDC or, you know, because a lot of it's
We'll put
marketing.
it out across all of our channels, and
Yeah.
we'll let you all
Keep looking.
vet and pick, so.
Yeah, and we can open it up to, you know, people that are members of the current interagency council, people that are invested in the city and the community, things that are gonna be developed there for that community space. Should be really good too.
Is there a minimum age for those?
I don't believe so.
Probably voting age.
I don't
Probably.
know. I don't know that I've ever thought about that.
Yeah.
The youth council, like moving some of them up.
Oh, yeah.
For
That's-
sure, on your capital improvements committee, that's really open. You're not required to have one. We don't have anything that statutorily sets that up, so that one's pretty wide open.
I honestly don't remember on planning and zoning what the age limitation is.
That one's.
It's gotta be 18, I would think, at a
Voting.
minimum.
Yeah.
You could run
If not
for like
21.
local office if
That
you're
is a good
18.
question, yeah.
Planning and zoning for sure, I would say need to be voting age because there's some very real legal implications to decisions that are made. And I just wouldn't wanna put somebody under 18 in that kind of a position. But home rule charter, I don't think there's a requirement, we'll go back and check, but I don't know that there is.
Yeah,
But that would be a great opportunity for somebody on the youth community council.
One thought I had on
Even if we made
volunteers,
it an ad hoc member, if they
Yeah,
couldn't
that'd be
be
real
a
cool.
voting member.
on volunteers for committees is maybe the junior council's parents.
You know, I thought about the same thing. I thought about,
We gonna
yeah.
harvest that crop already?
If any of them are, yeah, to see if any of them are
Yeah.
interested, since their kids are volunteering and doing.
I thought about the same thing, that's right. Good,
Yeah.
good point.
And then they can all talk about it over dinner.
See, look out of the box, do some really, checking on things and
I like that, give them something for their kids and then to talk about.
Really, it does,
Exactly.
it would
so.
promote a healthy family environment.
Yeah, I like the application process, getting that word out there, so
We'll help how we
We'll
can.
proceed. Yeah,
do you need any kind of action on that, or just direction's good enough?
that direction is fine, thank you.
That's the right direction.
2 vacancies on EDC, is that right?
Just one,
I think just one for
Just
Cindy
one.
Miller, yeah.
Okay, good, okay.
And then for planning and zoning, there's
One.
one.
Okay.
And then for, the facilities, we wanted to get how many, 6 to 12?
It's on.
For capital improvements, yeah, 6 to 10, I would say.
6 to 10. Yeah, it seems kind of daunting, doesn't it?
It does,
But when you get up to 6 or 7, then you're almost there, and you just need 3, so let's just go to 6 or 7.
that's true. It's true, true.
All right, that takes us to, any more discussion on that topic? Okay, good deal. That takes us to item number 5, consider future agenda items. Oh, yes, here we go, here's a couple.
Mayor and council, at your next meeting, the youth community council will be presenting a project proposal for your consideration. And then probably, hopefully in May, we will have an animal control ordinance review for you.
It's getting to be kinda interesting, right?
I would recommend
always interesting.
Yeah.
starting to read through the animal control ordinance now, because it's a lot.
Yeah,
There's a lot
okay.
of content in there. And when you read through it,
That's
just
on
think,
our website.
Yes. something kind of ordinances.
It could be condensed to spay and neuter your pet, several consequences.
Spay and neuter your pet and be a good neighbor.
yeah,
Yes.
that would definitely broaden it.
That would nip a lot in the back.
Be hard to enforce that.
It would.
It is. Sounds easy, but.
All right, anything else in the matter of future agenda items? All
Of
right,
course, we'll have more updates on facilities and broadband as we work through both of those projects.
of course. All right, that takes us to reports. We have a pretty nice packet of reports from our city staff to review. Oops.
Mayor and council, one thing that's not in your reports, the booster for the police department has been installed. It was installed last week, I believe, and has been working wonderfully that year. So that's good.
Oh, the signal booster.
Yes.
Can I ask what area of town the animal complaints were coming from?
What's the name of that subdivision?
Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham. Forest. Nottingham.
Where is that?
Across from Kane.
Okay.
Yep. headed to Leamington Spa. Down that street.
Okay. Is there a reason why so many come from there?
Yes.
Okay. Are we allowed to know that reason?
I think we have one particular issue that keeps coming out of that area.
Okay.
Cat issue,
Okay.
which is another reason for the animal control ordinance review.
Does said cat need something that we can help her or
No.
him with? Okay.
We have some particular challenges enforcing our current animal control ordinance, because we do not have an animal shelter,
Yes.
is our biggest limitation. So, right now, we are simply a holding facility for dogs. We do not have any options to deal with cats at this time, because state law requires that you hold cats for 3 days before you turn them over to any other shelter or organization, and we do not have any other organizations within the county that take cats. So
Yeah, even if we had a
held them
shelter,
for 3
after that
days-
3 days, we'd still
So even if we had a holding facility for them,
So is it a feral cat situation
this is
or,
not, this is a domestic cat
Okay.
situation.
at large.
and it doesn't like to stay inside its home?
Correct.
Okay.
And causes property damage is the thing. It's not just I see
The
your
cat
cat.
is causing property damage?
Multiple cats.
Allegedly.
Multiple cats, okay.
Are we talking maybe a part-timer?
No.
No.
The issue is not, it's not a staffing issue,
No.
it's an issue, it's a
What if we
matter of,
can't do anything with the cat?
we don't have anything to do with the cat if we were to capture the
If
cat.
it was dogs, we could hold them and then take them, and there's organizations to take them, but there's nobody to take cats.
So
Well-
short of an animal shelter,
Maybe look at other communities, what they do, you know?
we have, so we've contacted all of our partner
You have some
agencies and cities
solutions? I
within
do.
Smith County. We've been working on it about 6 months.
Yeah, okay.
We worked with a rescue group to relocate, almost 24 cats from this particular homeowner, so. I don't wanna get into specifics about this
Okay.
because I don't know that that's
Whoa.
fair to anybody involved. It's an issue that we've been working through for a long time, continue to work through, but we do have limitations. So that's where those animal complaints are coming from. I'll leave it at
If
that.
it's a hoarding situation, that's more than just, oh, your cat's driving me crazy.
Let's leave it at that for
Okay.
now.
Okay.
All right. I was gonna ask this on the budget that comes in there. The way these numbers are laid out, fire departments use their whole budget already, and there's like 6 months left in the year.
For any particular line item in here?
Let me see, I'm finding on my little surface here, so. Yeah, so it's,
You got a page number there? Maybe?
I'm on page 123 out of 145, I believe.
Oh, fire truck purchase.
Oh, is that what that is? Okay.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, that makes sense. So that's oh, he ran over there. He's like, "Oh."
He's like, yeah. He thought he would get paid for the rest of the year.
Well, that's how it looks. I mean, it's like they're over budget right now, and we still have quite a few months left, so I just wanted to, for anybody playing at home.
It's a good eye, though. It's a
Do we
good
have
eye.
an estimated delivery date?
We are anticipating a pre-construction meeting May-ish, and we'll have a more hard idea then. That's when construction will begin. I think that we're really still looking at the first of the year to March of next year.
Of next year? Yeah.
So you're asking if you win the auction item for the birthday at the fire department, they're gonna have the new truck.
Thank you, Mayor, for that.
But the chief said you could ride anytime, he'll take us on our ride.
Chief Ferguson, the burglaries of the motor vehicles in January, is that isolated to a specific area, like a one-night hit, or just random? Okay.
That was a one-night event where a group came in and hit a large area, and I think the last update on that, we had them identified. I think a lot of them already got arrested. But it was more than just us, it was the county.
Okay.
It's a great reminder for everyone to lock their cars.
Once again.
Yes.
And yesterday, did we isolate what was actually heard?
I heard all kinds of reports, Facebook put lots of reports on there. I heard credible reports of up to 10 shots. We have not gotten anything to tell us anything other than somebody was shooting a gun at something.
Okay.
I don't have any reason to believe that it was, other than the fact that you can't shoot a gun as criminal activity. I don't think it was like somebody was shooting at somebody. I think they were just probably firing a gun off.
Sighting their gun or something.
What is it, 1,000 feet? You can fire within 1,000, you have to be over 1,000 feet of firing a weapon,
Of what? You can't fire in the city at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
they're
city
gonna
limits.
period.
City
Yeah.
limits.
But that area there, depending on what direction,
Yeah.
you're not very far from the city limits.
Exactly,
At all. So it's
exactly,
gonna
that's what I was trying to
Yeah,
say,
it was too close to be the shooting range, cause the shooting range is down there.
yeah,
It was too close to be that, yeah.
just wondering, yeah.
Interesting. I don't know. There's a lot in this report. Is there anything that y'all want us to know in this report?
Development activity continues to be incredibly strong. We have, for those of you that haven't heard our latest numbers, I think we have 1,100 lots in some form of the construction process. Either they've done a preliminary application for approval, either it's been approved, or they are under construction or recently completed. So that is a lot, considering that we have one building inspector and our city secretary doubles as the planning and zoning director, so, very busy on that end.
Yeah, that's a lot of growth.
That is a lot of growth.
2.5 people per rooftop.
3 is what I was thinking. That's-
Yeah, 3,300 people on top of 9,400.
That's probably the
That's a
largest in the
third.
history of this city, isn't it? Probably,
I don't know.
I'd have to-
pretty impressive.
So between our residential growth and, the anticipated projects on the 100 to 300 block, 100 to 400 block of East Main, I think in a couple of years, this stretch of roadway is gonna look very differently. So,
Yeah, I think so.
positive, things that are coming out of all the vision work that the previous councils did back in 2018.
5 years from now, I don't think any of us it will be interesting 5 years from now, which is a good thing.
A lot of change.
Yep.
All right, anything else on the staff reports? Water consumption's going well?
So it's always kind of a little bit lower in the
Yeah.
first
It picks
6
up
to
in
9 months. It picks
June,
up the
July,
end of the
August.
fiscal year, so. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm wondering.
What?
Those people that are moving in, eventually
Oh.
it's gonna be flowing a little bit more.
It is, yes.
Yes, okay, looking forward to that.
Plenty of water too, right?
We have plenty of water, to supply all their sprinkler systems, bathrooms,
Everything.
kitchens.
In that tiny building over there, our senior center people have delivered 698 meals.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that's pretty good.
A lot. And they still have time for mahjong on Wednesdays. Good stuff.
Yep.
All right, anything else from, reports from staff? Hearing none, we will move on. We don't have an executive session today, so there's no reason to reconvene back in the K. That takes us to item J. L, which is adjourn. The time is now 7:27 and this meeting is adjourned.
All right.
Good meeting.
Is the Fran Lusk that runs the,
Okay. so
or
that's
did the activity
Rochelle.
report?
Yes.
Is her husband Stan?
She couldn't
It's
stand
Fran
playing
and
the
Stan
last
Lusk, isn't it?
week.
Miss Valley.
I'm
Are
pretty
we
sure
still live?
they used to
She's
be
really upset that